thought they could drown you. They held your head beneath the waves, watching, waiting, convinced that you'd sink like all the others. They underestimated you. They didn't see it, the storm building in your chest, the pressure rising beneath your skin, the moment when you stopped gasping for air and became the ocean itself. They thought they could suffocate your spirit, but all they did was teach you how to breathe underwater. Now, here you stand, not as the broken wreckage they expected, but as something vast, limitless, untamed. You feel it, don't you? That pull inside of you, the restlessness that won't let you sleep, the whispers in your gut telling you that you were never meant to live small. They tried to bury that fire, but fire doesn't die in darkness. It rages, it spreads. It waits for the right moment to ignite the world. That moment is now. The time for silence is over. The world is shifting, and it's waiting for you to take what is already yours. But you know the truth? No one is going to hand it to you. They never have, and they never will. If you want your place, you have to carve it out with your own hands. Look at how far you've come, how many times you've been knocked down. They counted you out every single time. Every failure, every betrayal, every closed door was meant to keep you caged, to make you doubt yourself. And maybe for a while you believed them. Maybe you thought you weren't enough, that the weight pressing down on your chest would never lift. Maybe you let their words settle into your bones, poisoning your mind with the lie that you were never meant to rise. But deep down, even in your weakest moments, you knew the truth. You knew there was something inside of you that they couldn't kill. They feared you before you even knew your own strength. That's why they tried to break you early, to convince you that you were nothing before you could realize you were everything. But you are awake now. You have seen the truth, and the truth is this: you were never drowning, you were transforming. Every moment of struggle, every tear, every ounce of pain has been shaping you into something unshakable. The ones who tried to hold you under, they won't know how to face you now. They won't recognize the version of you that has risen from the depths. You are no longer a desperate soul clawing for the surface. You are the current, the force that bends the tides, the storm they never saw coming. They wanted to break you, but they only forged something unstoppable. Time is slipping. The world is still waiting. It's not enough to just survive anymore. Survival is for those who accept the limits placed upon them. You are beyond that now. It's time to own the power they never wanted you to find. It's time to rise, not as the person they tried to mold, not as the version of you that begged for validation, but as the force of nature you were always meant to be. So tell me, what will you do now that you have become the ocean? They left you gasping, drowning, screaming with water in your lungs, waiting for the final silence. They stood at the shore, watching as the tide swallowed you whole, expecting the ocean to do their dirty work. They thought the weight of their rejection, their cruelty, their silence would be enough to drag you under. And for a moment, maybe it did. Maybe you sank deeper than you ever thought possible, so deep that even light couldn't find you. Maybe you forgot what air felt like, what warmth felt like, what it meant to be seen. But you never stopped fighting, even when every muscle in your body screamed for rest, even when the darkness wrapped itself around you, whispering lies in your ear. This is where you belong. This is who you are now. This is all you will ever be. The weight of it all was unbearable. The voices that told you that you weren't good enough, weren't strong enough, weren't worthy enough, those voices were relentless. They disguised themselves as friends, as family, as mentors, as society itself, slipping into your mind like a slow poison. They fed you their version of reality, one where you were small, insignificant, disposable. You started to believe them. You started to accept their narrative as truth, letting their words carve into your soul like daggers. They called you foolish for dreaming, called you weak for feeling, called you lost for wanting more. They wanted you obedient. They wanted you broken. They wanted you to fold under the weight of their expectations so they wouldn't have to face their own mediocrity. And when you didn't, when you still stood, even with the scars, even with the pain, that's when they turned to silence. They pretended not to see you, pretended you didn't exist. They erased you from their minds, hoping you would disappear on your own. And maybe that was the worst of it. Not the words, not the cruelty, but the emptiness. The realization that you could scream at the top of your lungs and no one would hear you. That you could claw at the walls, beg for someone to reach down and pull you up, and all you'd get in return was a blank stare. So you stopped screaming. You stopped clawing. You let yourself sink. And for a while, you thought it would be easier that way. To just let go, to accept that this world wasn't meant for you. You convinced yourself that fighting back was pointless, that no one was coming, that you didn't have it in you to make it to the surface. You let the pain turn to numbness, let the fire inside of you shrink down to embers. And when the world looked at you, they saw exactly what they wanted to see. Someone defeated, someone who had finally accepted their place. But what they didn't see, what they could never see, was that the embers were still burning. That beneath the silence, beneath the numbness, there was still something alive. Something waiting, something watching. And when the moment came, when you realized that you were never meant to stay in the abyss, that you were never meant to be the victim in their story, everything changed. You started to see the lies for what they were. You saw how they projected their own fears onto you, how they tried to strip you of your power because they were terrified of what you could become. You saw how they conditioned you to doubt yourself, to shrink, to apologize for existing. And the rage that had once been buried deep inside you, the rage you had been told to suppress, to swallow, to ignore, it rose. It spread through your veins like wildfire, awakening something primal, something unstoppable. They tried to bury you. They tried to drown you. They wanted you to believe that you were nothing. But the moment you saw through their illusion, the moment you realized that you were never weak, never small, never meant to be forgotten, that was the moment you became dangerous. Because now you remember who you are. Now you understand that every single scar, every single betrayal, every single moment of suffering was never meant to break you. It was meant to forge you. And the ones who left you in the abyss, the ones who stood by and watched as you struggled to breathe, they have no idea what's coming. Because you are not the person they left behind. You are something else now, something unstoppable, and you are done waiting to be saved. They thought they could drown you. They thought they could bury you beneath the weight of your own suffering, your own self-doubt, your own shattered dreams. They thought you would beg for air, that you would break, that you would surrender to the depths. But they forgot one thing. You don't just survive, you consume. The pain was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to awaken you. But pain is deceptive. It convinces you that the only way out is to give in, to let go, to stop fighting. It wraps around you like chains, whispering that there is no escape, that this is just who you are now, a lost cause, a fading shadow, a soul too broken to rise. It tells you that the struggle is futile, that no matter how hard you push, no matter how much you fight, the weight of the past will always be heavier than your will to move forward. But here's the truth they never told you. Drowning and transforming feel the same at first. The struggle, the desperation, the feeling of suffocation, it's all part of the process. The pain isn't your enemy, it's the catalyst. The moment you stop fighting against it, the moment you stop fearing it, everything changes. Because the second you stop seeing yourself as the one gasping for air and start seeing yourself as the storm, the game is over. They thought they had you figured out. They thought they knew your limits, your breaking point. They thought you would never recover, never rise, never become anything more than what they left behind. They expected you to stay in the darkness, to accept the role they wrote for you. But they don't know you. They never did. You weren't drowning, you were becoming. Every tear, every betrayal, every moment of hopelessness, it was sharpening you, reshaping you into something unrecognizable. You weren't meant to stay in the depths. You were meant to own them. You weren't meant to beg for air, you were meant to become the current. You weren't meant to be crushed by the waves, you were meant to rise with them. This is the moment, the shift, the awakening. There is no savior coming, no hand reaching down to pull you to safety, no voice calling out to guide you to shore. It's just you and the choice in front of you. Stay here and let them be right about you, or stand up and prove that you were never meant to stay small. Because the ocean doesn't bow, it doesn't beg, it doesn't break, and neither do you. The moment has arrived. The shift is undeniable. You feel it in your bones, in your pulse, in the fire that refuses to be extinguished. This is not where your story ends. This is where it begins. Everything that tried to drown you, everything that tried to crush you under its weight, now belongs to you. The waves that once held you under are no longer your enemy. They are your weapon. You don't fear them anymore. You are them. And for the first time you see the truth. The war was never against the world. It was against yourself. They never told you that pain could be fuel, that suffering could sharpen your edges, that every scar could become armor. They wanted you to believe that pain was the enemy, that it was something to run from, something to avoid at all costs. But do you think warriors are born in silk sheets? Do you think legends were handed their thrones? No. They were forged in storms, drowned in fire, and they came back screaming. They were broken and rebuilt. They were torn apart and reconstructed piece by piece, until every fracture in their soul became a masterpiece of resilience. And now it's happening to you. You have spent too long believing the lie that you were weak, that your suffering made you less, that your failures defined you. But what if you were wrong? What if everything they told you was a lie? What if the things you thought made you broken were the very things that made you dangerous? What if the things they mocked, the way you felt too much, the way you refused to conform, the way you never fit into their world, were not signs of weakness but warnings of the power they feared inside you? This is your first rebellion. The first time you look in the mirror and see the reflection of someone they never wanted you to become. Someone uncontrolled, someone untamed, someone who no longer asks for permission to exist. You are not the victim anymore. You are not the drowning one, the forgotten one, the one who was meant to fade into the background. You are the storm, and storms don't apologize for their destruction. The old version of you, the one who begged, the one who doubted, the one who let them dictate what you could and couldn't be, that version is dying, and something else is rising in its place. The moment you let go of the lies, the moment you reject their definition of you, you become something else entirely. What if you are more than they said? What if you were never meant to play small? What if every time they tried to bury you, they were only planting something unstoppable? You are no longer asking. You are no longer waiting. You are becoming. Who told you to shrink? Who told you to stay silent? Who told you that you were powerless? They were wrong. Every single one of them. Every voice that tried to drown your fire, every hand that pushed you back, every gaze that looked at you like you were something to be controlled, something to be molded into their image. They were wrong, and you know what? You're done apologizing for being everything they couldn't handle. This is the rebellion, the moment you realize you don't owe them anything. Not your silence, not your obedience, not your dreams. They tried to cage you with their limitations, their labels, their expectations. But you're breaking free, not gently, not with permission. You're shattering the chains. This fight is not just against them, it's against everything inside of you that has been holding you back. The voice that says, you're not good enough. The voice that says, you're not strong enough. The voice that says, you'll never be what you want to be. No more. You are the one who controls the narrative now. It's not the world that defines you. It's you that defines the world. The ocean that once dragged you down is no longer the enemy. It is the embodiment of your power. The crashing waves are no longer a symbol of your struggle. They are your freedom. The vast, untamed expanse is your stage. You are no longer a helpless swimmer at the mercy of the tide. Now, you are the storm itself. Every wave you create, every surge of power is a declaration. I am free. I am uncontainable. I am relentless. Yes, fear will always be there. It will whisper in your ear. It will claw at your chest. It will try to convince you that you are still the weak, broken person they tried to make you believe you were. But now, you own it. You carry fear with you, but you don't bow to it. You use it. It becomes fuel, not a burden. It becomes the pulse beneath your skin that drives you forward. Fear doesn't control you anymore. It trembles in your wake. So ask yourself this. What's holding you back? Who are you waiting for to give you permission? You've spent too much of your life in the shadow of others, too long silencing your own voice. You don't need their approval, you never did. This is your time, your reign, and no one, no matter how loud they shout, no matter how hard they try to silence you, can take that from you. The rebellion is already underway. You are already unstoppable. The moment you stop waiting for permission is the moment you take control. You are not here to conform. You are not here to fit into their world. You are here to break it. The moment of power arrives like a tidal wave, crashing through every barrier, obliterating every doubt. There is no hesitation now, no second guessing. Everything that you were, the quiet, the meek, the too much or not enough, is gone. In its place, there is only unstoppable force. You have shed the weight of other people's expectations, their judgments, their limitations. You don't need permission to take up space. You define where you belong. Every inch of this earth is yours to claim, and not a single soul has the right to tell you otherwise. No more hiding in the shadows. No more shrinking to make others feel comfortable. You are the center of your universe, and everyone else will either step aside or be swept away by the power you've unlocked. Your power is not up for discussion. It's not up for debate. It is not a commodity to be traded, a trophy to be earned, or a performance to be critiqued. It is yours, in its rawest, purest form, and it demands respect. The very notion that you need others' approval, that you need validation from anyone to be who you are, that idea no longer exists. You are the storm now. You are the force of nature that moves mountains, that shapes the world around you with a single glance, a single action. Your power doesn't need anyone else's permission to exist. It just is. And those voices that once defined you, those fears, those doubts, those chains that held you back, look at them now. They haven't disappeared. They never will. Fear doesn't vanish, but it's no longer your master. It no longer controls you. It trembles in the face of your strength, trying desperately to whisper the lies that once paralyzed you. But it's too late. You've heard those lies before, and now they have no power over you. You are the one in control. This is the moment where you realize you are no longer the one drowning. You are the storm. You are the tempest that reshapes the world. You don't fear the destruction anymore because you are the destruction. You don't fear the chaos because you are the chaos. What was once a prison is now your canvas, and you will paint your future with the blood, sweat, and tears of everything you've overcome. Look at yourself. You are unrecognizable from the person who thought they could be broken. You are no longer the shattered shell, the broken survivor. You are the creator, the ruler, the force that moves mountains, the one who will never be told no again. This is the moment. The world thought they could break you. They thought you would fade into the shadows. They thought you would stay small, quiet, weak. But now, they tremble as you rise. You are unstoppable. You are the storm. You are the ocean. You are everything they never thought you could be, and so much more. Nothing can contain you. Nothing can stop you. Because when you finally realize your power, when you stop listening to the lies, when you let the storm inside you rage, nothing is impossible. You are the ocean. Vast, deep, impossible to contain. You have embraced the darkness that once terrified you, not as something to hide from, but as something that fuels you. The shadows, they are no longer your prison. They are your strength. Every inch of pain, every ounce of fear, every scar etched into your soul, it all courses through you now, a source of power you no longer deny. You are the chaos. You are the force that cannot be tamed. And it is in this wild, untamed essence that you find your true self. The hesitation is gone. All the fragments of self-doubt, all the whispers that told you to retreat, to hold back, to stay small, they have been shattered. There is no more waiting for permission. There is no more wondering if you're worthy. You are worthy. You are the storm. The world will never understand you now. They will never comprehend the magnitude of what you've become because they never saw the process. They only saw the surface, the cracked exterior, the broken pieces. But what they didn't see was the ocean beneath. They didn't see the depth, the power, the unstoppable force that was always there, waiting. They will try to dismiss you, they will try to label you, but their words are irrelevant now. You are no longer defined by what they said, by what they wanted, by what they expected. You are the result of everything they tried to break, everything they tried to bury. And now you stand, unrecognizable to those who once tried to shape you, because you are no longer their creation. You are your own. You are the wave that cannot be silenced. You are the roar that cannot be ignored. You are the energy that propels the world forward, that carves new paths, that destroys every barrier in its way. The chaos, it's not something to fear. It's what you're made of. It's what you were always meant to become. This is your moment. This is the call to action. Let the world hear you. Let the storm rise. Let the ocean crash with the power of everything you've become. There is no more fear. There is no more hesitation. You are unstoppable. You are the storm. Now, own it. Move with the tide. Be the chaos that cannot be contained. Your destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of will, and you will rise. You will take what is yours. The world is waiting for you to show them what happens when they underestimate the ocean. Show them. Look at you now. Stand still for a moment and take it all in. Do you see it? Do you see how far you've come? The path you walked wasn't easy. It was brutal. You've shed layers of doubt, pain, and fear like old skin, exposing a version of yourself that is so much more than you ever imagined. The journey you've walked, it wasn't a curse. It was your transformation. Every step, every struggle, every moment when you thought you couldn't go on only brought you closer to this version of yourself. The one who owns the storm, the one who commands the waves, the one who no longer asks for permission. You are the culmination of every battle, every tear, every heartbreak, and now, looking back, you can see it clearly. None of it was wasted. It was all part of this process of becoming. But now the question stands before you, raw and unrelenting. Now that you know who you are, what will you do with it? You've unlocked your true power. The fire is burning inside of you. But now, it's up to you to decide what to do with it. You could settle, you could rest, you could allow others to pull you back into their world of limits and mediocrity. But you already know what you're capable of. And once you see the ocean inside of you, there's no going back. This isn't just about surviving, it's about conquering. It's about rising so high that you leave the world in awe of your presence. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to conform. You were born to stand out, to break every boundary, to rewrite the rules of what's possible. Your future is not a place of survival, it is a place of domination. Every obstacle that once stood in your way is now just fuel for your fire. Every person who tried to hold you down will watch as you rise higher than they ever dared to imagine. And as you soar, you won't look back, not because you're leaving anyone behind, but because you are moving forward. And nothing can stop you now. The fire inside you is not temporary. It is not a passing moment of inspiration that fades with time. It is forever. It is the flame that will burn through every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt, and you will carry it with you until the end of time. So ask yourself one final time, what will you do with all that power? The world is waiting, but it's not enough for you to just take up space. No, you are here to reshape it. And with that fire in your chest, with the ocean beneath your feet, there is nothing in this world that can stand in your way. This is the moment, the ultimate call to action. You stand at the precipice of your destiny, and there is no turning back. You've come too far, you've faced the abyss, you've embraced your darkness, and you've transformed into something unstoppable. But now, you must make a choice. If you walk away from this moment, if you let fear creep back into your soul, if you allow yourself to shrink again, then you are choosing to stay small. You are choosing to retreat into the shadows, to let the world continue defining you. You are choosing to let them win. But do you know what that means? It means you are rejecting everything you've become. It means you are rejecting the storm, rejecting the power, rejecting the freedom that has always been yours. It means you are allowing the old version of yourself to hold you hostage once again, and you know, deep down, that you are not that person anymore. You've broken free of the chains. You've burned down the walls that once caged you. So here's the question. Will you stay in the shadows, or will you step into the storm?